Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jake, the Scary Story Guy, and today we bid a truly fond farewell to one of the great horror franchises of the 21st century, Annabelle. I'm gonna miss that doll. No, of course, we're discussing The Conjuring Last Rites, which is in theaters today and is the fourth and final installment in the Conjuring film series. And then on top of that, there's the whole Conjuring cinematic universe, the Annabelle movies, the Nun movies, who could forget the Curse of La Llorona. But at the end of the day, none of those movies matter. It's really only a party when Ed and Lorraine Warren come to play. So today I'm going to do three things. First, I'm going to put this movie in its proper context as not just a horror film, but as the finale of a, some would say, legendary franchise. Then I'm going to tell you what I liked and didn't like about it and whether I think it's worth your time. And finally, I'll throw down a brief retrospective on the series as a whole. And the best part is, I'm going to do it without spoiling anything. This is such great content. You're so lucky. And it must be said, to watch this video without clicking the like button would be the height of ingratitude. To watch without subscribing, the height of foolishness. All right, let's do this shit. Conjuring 1 comes out in 2013, is awesome, is a sensation. Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga, they are impeccable as America's spookiest power couple, Ed and Lorraine Warren. We love them. We want to see more of them. So James Wan, creator, director, gives the people what we want. Conjuring 2 comes out a couple years later, and it's the same deal. Ed and Lorraine saving a very nice family from some very unkind demons. Sorry, inhuman spirits. I don't want to embarrass myself here. And Conjuring 2, every bit as good as Conjuring 1, maybe even a little better in some ways. So we've got a new powerhouse series on our hands. And then James Wan dips out to go direct Aquaman, which, what a kick in the nuts. Because that means a gentleman named Michael Chaves steps in to direct The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. And he does a, I would say, poor job. The devil made him direct a shitty movie, am I right? But I actually need to atone for making fun of Michael Chaves so much in my Conjuring 3 video, and in my The Nun 2 video, and for outright refusing to watch The Curse of La Llorona, saying, quote, "I'd rather kill myself," unquote. Because he also directed The Conjuring Last Rites, and I can't lie, it's pretty good. I was ready to be mad. I can't do it. Michael Chaves came through. Patrick and Vera, of course, came through. When do they not? And all in all, though, I think it had some weaknesses that the first two Conjuring films maybe didn't have. I am fully comfortable saying this is a worthy finale to the series. So let me tell you, again, spoiler-free, here's what worked. I think my favorite element of every Conjuring movie just has to be Ed and Lorraine's relationship, because both actors are going for it, like to a degree you don't often see in horror movie romances. The whole thing is just very, very tender and like sincere. And that dynamic doesn't just continue here, it's actually strengthened, right? Like all of the best married couples you know as they grow older, or at least in this case, decidedly middle-aged. They love each other more. And this takes place in the 80s, so their daughter Judy, who's only a child in the first couple movies, now a grown woman. And so we get some really interesting stuff about her backstory, about Ed and Lorraine's backstory with her. And before you know it, the whole Warren clan gets swept up yet again on another haunted house adventure. Now, unlike the first two Conjuring films, I would say the haunted house adventure, the case that Ed and Lorraine are investigating here, is a bit of a passenger princess in this one. It's not to say it's bad. It features some very effective visuals. In fact, one moment in particular, I was like, oh, that's a little harder than these movies usually go. It's not dwelled upon. This is primarily a movie about Ed and Lorraine and Judy Warren. So the family they help, they're interesting, they're fine, but don't expect to get attached to them like you did the single mom in The Conjuring 2. So, you know, sorry if that's a disappointment, but, you know, if you're like me and you're here for Ed and Lorraine just as much as you are for the crazy demon shit, it won't be a problem. So I feel like any viewer needs to analyze this movie through a couple different lenses, right? Does it succeed on its own as just a horror movie? And then does it succeed as the finale to this franchise? For me, it succeeds as a scary movie pretty well. I'd say the visuals are pretty good here. There's only a couple that really stick with you, but they didn't phone it in. A few moments did feel pretty cliched, but I think the Conjuring movies generally are kind of cliched. They're just impeccably made cliches. So I think that's less a result of like, oh, where's the creativity here? And more just a result of like, you know, not only is this a cliched franchise, but we've already seen this 3 other times. I don't want to sell it short though. This is scarier than like a lot of movies. And even where the scares fail, they are very well crafted. So that's how it does as a scary movie. But as the finale to the franchise, I think The Conjuring Last Rites succeeds in a major way. I'm sure there's a lot that Michael Chaves was doing differently in this movie to elevate it from Conjuring 3, but to me the single biggest difference was just that it felt like this movie really cared about its characters and the universe it was portraying. Conjuring 3, let's just throw whatever bullshit at the wall and see if Ed and Lorraine can go scrape it off. Conjuring 4, we respect Ed and Lorraine. We love Ed and Lorraine. We are determined to give Ed and Lorraine the send-off they deserve. Because this is actually a pretty moving film in many ways. The characters take on an added depth that, I mean, they were always kind of deep throughout the series, but I really wasn't expecting this. I felt like I cared way more about the Warrens when I left the movie than I did when I came in. For me, Conjuring 3 actually made me feel a little bit worse about the first two Conjuring movies because, you know, they're all kind of formulaic, and so to see the formula done so poorly, it kind of exposed the inherent silliness of the formula itself, it felt like. Whereas Conjuring 4, like, it revived the series for me. It reminded me what I loved so much about those first two movies, and it may not capture their magic fully, but it's like 80-85% of the way there. I would say at least it's 100% worth your time, especially if you're like me and you have some emotional investment in these characters, feel like they're kind of a part of your horror journey in some way. So I am going to give The Conjuring Last Rites 4 stars out of 5. And now for a brief and self-indulgent trip with me down memory lane as we analyze the Conjuring franchise as a whole. I feel like I've reached the end of something here. My videos on The Conjuring 1 and The Conjuring 2 were two of the first videos I ever posted on this channel. Anyway, The Conjuring stars Patrick Wilson's sideburns, and Vera Farmiga as Ed and Lorraine Warren, a married couple whose idea of foreplay is casting demons out of their throw pillows together. Oh, look at baby Jake. He had jokes. I said it in those videos, and I'll say it again, I really think James Wan is maybe more responsible for the success of horror in the 21st century than any other person. Obviously, Saw had a huge effect for both good and ill, but you can't deny its influence. Insidious succeeded not just at spawning a lucrative franchise, but for reminding the world's middle schoolers just how scary a PG-13 horror movie can be. But The Conjuring outshone them all. Films 1 and 2 made a ton of money and deserved it. All the other movies in the cinematic universe made a ton of money. And really, I do think I can draw a pretty clear line in my head, you know, BC, before Conjuring, just in terms of how excited normies are about horror movies. Things were pretty bleak there in the mid-2000s for a while, and I think The Conjuring, maybe its biggest effect was just in reminding the masses, like, these things are fun as shit. So now that The Conjuring Last Rites has given this whole franchise a proper ending, at least they say it's going to be an ending, God only knows if that's actually going to be the case, but now I feel like I can crown the series. This is legend stuff. These movies will be remembered. I mean, the first two especially, of course, but people still watch the Last Godfather, right? Anyway, I'm mostly just relieved. I was ready to hate this movie, but look at me. I'm cheery and vibrant for your viewing pleasure. So if you liked this valuable and, if I may say so, uplifting content, then once again, please like and subscribe, and as always, stay tuned for more spooky content coming soon. But in the meantime, thank you for watching this video, and here's hoping you survive to see the next one.